All right, here we are on that station. I am Hannah, sitting here in Studio J with Jesse Malin.
How you doing, Hannah?
I'm good. You are a singer, songwriter, musician, and as many people call you, a fearless storyteller.
Oh, well, I'll take whatever I can get. I just like to play music and travel around with a guitar and a band, and I've been doing this a little while, and, it's something I enjoy doing every day as much as I can. So
That's awesome. And you just embarked on a short tour with Lucinda Williams.
Yeah. We've done dates with her before a couple times. We've done stuff in the South and on the East Coast, and she produced one of my records. Her and her husband, Tom Overby, produced a record, the one before the last, Sunset Kids, and that was a great experience. We did some in California and some in New York, kind of a bi-coastal experience. But we've known each other, I guess, about 20 years. We just met at a jazz club in New York. Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones was playing. The Blue Note was the name of the club. And we just hit it off. She's just a real caring, loving, obviously an amazing artist and writer, singer, but as a human being, she really just cares about people, and she's very endearing. So.
That's incredible. We get really lucky to run into those people in our life, but especially lucky if you get to keep running into them and keep working with them. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, especially if artists that you like their music, and then sometimes it's that thing, don't meet your heroes. They could let you down, but sometimes they don't, someone like Joe Strummer, who just had a birthday yesterday, would have been 70. I met him, and it was like he was living out these Clash songs. Sometimes these people are great. Lucinda has that thing. So.
That's incredible. Yeah, and so you all had you had a show last night at Haw River Ballroom. You got a second show tonight.
I'm going to see if I get it right. What is it? Saxa Paha?
Pretty close. I think you just got to let it roll off the tongue faster. Saxa Paha. Yeah, okay. There you go. The good old country way. But
it was good. We're playing tonight. We go on at 7:30, and then she's about 8:40, I think, like that. And it's the second night in that venue. Really nice place, great people.
That's phenomenal. And so speaking of people that you have worked with throughout your life, I noticed you have a lot of collaborations in your repertoire. I think there was Billie Joe Armstrong, Green Day. Recently, a song with Bruce Springsteen was released.
Right, yeah.
So when these collaborations come to be, what are the elements that you know it's going to be productive and successful? How do you stumble into them or very purposefully pursue these collaborations?
It's a good question, because sometimes you can like somebody's music and like them as a person, and then do something, and maybe sonically or musically it doesn't mesh, and you're like,
Yeah.
The situation with Bruce and with Billie Joe are people that just met through doing music. I guess artists of a certain type, maybe we find each other or whatever. But I met Billie Joe. I was opening up for Social Distortion with my old group Degeneration, and he came to the Bay Area, San Francisco gig and started talking to me about one of our records. And next thing you know, we were asked to go on tour with Green Day. And from that, a friendship just evolved over the years. And when I went solo, I recorded for, they had a label, Green Day, Adeline Records, and they signed me, and that was really fun and cool. And certain people, as well as making a lot of money and being successful at what they do, it's great when people are really just sweet and generous and give back, and they were always like that when we were on tour with them. Whatever they had, they shared, and they were, dressing rooms, whatever. It was very free and punk rock and open. And with someone like Bruce, I guess he had heard my first record and asked me to do some shows with him, and that was surreal and wonderful. And he had, his band backing me up on my songs. I was like, really? I thought we were going to do Christmas songs, but it's my songs for a Christmas charity. And then when I was going to make my third record for Adeline Records, the Green Day label, Bruce said, hey, if you need something on this record, I'm up for doing something. So the producer, Rob Caggiano, said, what about that song about your mom who passed away when she was young and, always wanted to be a singer but never was? And I said, well, that's a really personal song. It's called Broken Radio. How about Bruce singing on that, he said to me. And I was like, I don't know. It's a duet. And then I thought about it, and I sent it to Bruce, and he said, yeah, I dig it. I'll do it. So we went back from California, where we were, to Jersey to do that with him. And just such a humble, giving, just present guy, no ego. The producer would make me sing the song over and over when we were tracking it. He made Bruce sing it a few times. Yeah. Bruce went along with the program, and it was cool. So it just came out again last week. There's a remixed version with re-recorded stuff because the record had been lost for a while from an out-of-print label. So Broken Radio 22, as we call it, with Bruce came out. But yeah, it's just working with these people, you never know how it's going to be. And you can get nervous and go, what if it doesn't sound right? And it's so-and-so, and I got to tell them, but I've been lucky that somehow the chemistry has worked out.
Right. Extending a hand and...
Yeah, it's such a gift that they give, and when it sounds cool, then it's more fun. So.
Yeah. So speaking of some of your recent work, you've been really busy over the past year. You put out a double album last September.
Yeah.
That was Sad and Beautiful World. You had a couple singles come out recently. And so I guess my question for you is, all of this is happening in a very wild world, the music that you're making. And so how has the pandemic and isolation and just the complete havoc of the past couple years affected your writing and your storytelling and your music?
That's a good question. I mean, with Sad and Beautiful World, the more recent album, was a double record. We had a lot of time on our hands, and we made it during the pandemic, and we made it when there wasn't lockdown in New York. We could sneak away, or somebody wasn't sick or scared, or, we could all get together in these little bursts, and ended up with a lot of songs. I didn't want to make the COVID almanac scrapbook, book. I wanted it to be a record that hopefully in time wouldn't just be locking you into 2020. But I could also not write a record out my window in New York City with all these things going on, the protests, George Floyd, the president, what was going on, January 6th, what was happening at the Capitol, COVID, just the tension and the scariness that was out my window, and the desperation, and also the loneliness and feeling of people being disconnected. So I think it entered into the record in a lot of ways, but it's not necessarily exactly just all about that. But I think you can feel and taste that, I hope, because that was just what, when you write, you're in that environment. And double record because there was a lot of songs, but also I like the real rocking stuff, but I also like the really mellow kind of sad guy stuff too. And I think it's that it was a combination, and one side is more of the roots stuff and the other side is the more radical or roots rock radicals.
Right.
So,
yeah, I loved that juxtaposition of those two things in it.
I always like that with my favorite bands, like the Replacements could play like this bashing song, and then do something beautiful, acoustic song like Skyway or Here Comes the Regular, and the Stones and the Beatles and, even the Ramones. I like their ballads or whatever, Nirvana Unplugged. So I like both kinds of music, country and Western.
Right, yeah. It's like if you listen to music to feel something, that can come in many forms, obviously, right? It can be like headbanging and losing your mind, and it can be those very somber, beautiful ballads.
Yeah, I like being able to pull that off in one show. We were trying that last night. Can we take it down really quiet? All right,
fun.
Can we bring it up and leave people with that thing? But
emotionally exhausted afterwards.
But yeah, we did some live streams during the 2020 year to keep going and stay connected, and the fans really kept us going with that. I was really against it at first. I'm like, I'm not going to sit in my house with a laptop and a camera and do this thing. And, it's about people coming together. But it's great now that people are back out at shows because, you make records and that's fun. But the real reward is getting to take those songs and go out and play them in front of people and go town to town.
Truly. I think... and those were super successful, those at-home sessions that you had, but it makes you miss a real show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, whatever. You could have to go, I'm playing to the camera. It's like I can feel that there's people out there. Somehow there's telepathic. But being back at shows, it matters to me because it's an interactive sport. It's playing live. You put something out to an audience and they give you something back, hopefully. Not tomatoes or rock to your head. And it goes back and forth, and the show kind of elevates, and you don't know. It's like when you write a song, you can write in your room and think it's great, but when you take it in front of people and hear it reverberate against other human beings' bodies and souls, then you get an idea if you're speaking anything that's valuable or truthful.
Absolutely, yeah. That exchange is necessary, I believe, in music. And which that kind of leads me into another question. Something that I found really fascinating about you is that you've been a part of the music scene since you were 12 years old, from what I saw. And not only in the music scene, but in like the epicenter of music at that time in New York. And so you have this really broad and unique perspective about the music industry over the years. My question is, what are some of the major developments or even pitfalls that you have noticed within the music scene and the industry since you've been involved in it?
Well, I think that, with the technology that we have in the digital era, stuff can move fast. We used to have to go out in the street at night and poster stuff with wheat paste all over in the winter. Now you just press a button on your phone and everybody knows you're playing. So it's a little easier on the body and you're getting sick or whatever. But there was more mystery, I think, back then. Now people know everything. Like you were saying before, you know what the DJ looks like. You look them up. You know what this is. And I think that kind of using more for the imagination or having to, figure things out. You heard some song, you're like, who sang that? You had to like do the work or go to some weird record store. And I think there's a lot of disconnect where people can just feel like it's disposable. And that even fits into where the money for artists, there's a lot, not to knock all these platforms, but if you're a musician coming up, it's harder to get paid for what you do,
Yeah.
So you have to make it on the road or make it with your merch or hit a certain level. But I think it all comes down to loving what you do and feeling that, passion and connecting to an audience. And it's still going to be on that human connection, I think. But it's definitely changed in some ways for better, some for worse.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Think,
Thanks so much for being here, Jesse.